that we're live?
Yes.
Perfect. We are. Good morning, everybody. I hope you guys are having an awesome morning.
Good morning. My screen is doing something really wacky right now. That's all right. I'll work around it.
Okay. But you can still hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you.
Okay.
This is like, you got to love technology, right? It's awesome when it works. And then when it doesn't, it's like, okay.
And we're live. So,
So whatever. There they
Right.
it went away. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's over with. Yeah. So good morning.
Welcome to Technical Difficulties.
Right. Exactly.
Well, in today's video, and I'm still hoarse. I'm trying. Right. In today's video, we are going to talk about what happens, for those people who have that thought process of becoming an entrepreneur, but that little fear and doubt sneaks in and they start thinking, oh my goodness, I'm nervous, I might fail. So we want to have that conversation with you today.
Yeah, and it's an interesting conversation because I think this is just a personal thing for me. I think that fear of failure comes from, I think it's a learned behavior.
Yeah.
Because, we've probably, most of us have heard the analogy, like how many times does a baby try to walk before he walks? Well, as many times as it takes.
Right.
And he falls, he gets up, he falls, he gets up, right? So we have, we need to really get back into that mode that we were before society and everybody got into our head that failure is a bad thing. So I was telling Christina the other day, one of the questions I now ask my son every day, who's going to be 10 next month, is, and I learned this from, I think, well, actually, I don't even remember, so I don't even want to quote who I learned this from, but some guru I was watching, right? Might have been E.T.
Yeah, so I think it was E.T.
He does this with his children. They know that they have to come home every day and tell him what they did that day that caused them to fail. So that's what I asked my son now. I'm like, what'd you fail at today? Why would you want to ask your kid something like that? Because I've been trying to teach him, doing my best to teach him that the only way we can grow, right, and learn new things is to mess up, and that it's a good thing.
Yep.
To fail. But if you think about like grade school kids taking tests, or even like getting your report card, we're penalized from grade school on for wrong answers. And yet I can think of things that I've failed at, or even tests I've taken, and the things that I got wrong, and then I want to go find out what the real answer was, are the ones that I remember the best.
Exactly.
Yep. So I just think that's a programming thing, because it's definitely not there when you're a year old, right? When you're 2 years old, having that fear of failure, if you will. So right. I have this mantra that some people roll their eyes at, but I don't really think there are failures. I think there's only lessons.
But you only fail when you stop.
Right. And if you didn't learn something from it, there's something to be learned in everything. And it's only up to us to learn from it. So when you have something that you're doing, it doesn't work out, it's not a failure per se. It's what did I learn from that? So I can make a course correction along the way. Somebody I look up to very much. Hey, Ed, if you're out there, he head of the marketing program at the local technical college here. And I think the class, like a 3 credit course there, usually costs around $500. So he will say to his students, make sure you get $500 worth of information out of my class. Right. And I'm going to say that to you guys, like when you're going out there and you're failing, make sure you get a lesson out of that, failure. And then don't think of it like a failure. I just don't really think of things as failures. And that's just a mindset thing. Did it not work out? Sure. I can use the vocabulary word called a failure, or I can say, well, what lesson did I learn from this? Right. That makes sense, right, Christina?
Yeah, definitely. Like,
why do I get the eye roll then when I say to someone?
Because I think people have such a negative relationship with not succeeding. Mm-hmm. They don't understand. Like, if you think about Thomas Edison, they said he tried to invent the light bulb 999 times. And then on the 1000th time, he actually got it. He didn't fail 999 times. He found out 999 times what ways not to make a light bulb, right? And people have such a negative relationship with not succeeding. Of course you're going to get the eye rolls, right? But it's just because they probably are the people who have the hardest time seeing the lessons, you know, as opposed to seeing like, oh, I'm always successful. Those are the people who see the successful people on the pedestal, but don't really realize the manpower and the hours that were put into cultivating those skills and those new things, right? So I think that might be why you get the eye rolls. We don't roll eyes around here. Like a lot of us inside of what we do inside of our circle are traders. And like we learn faster from our failures. We learn more information from our failures because now I know why it didn't work. So next time the scenario comes up, I'll be prepared, right? I can try something different. Like we're going to keep saying this. The goal, the destination where you want to end up is always the same, but the road that it takes to get there is what changes. Sometimes there's a detour, there's a couple orange cones in the way, you know, and if you go outside, you're going to see orange cones somewhere, and you know you're going to see the little detour sign. Just because you see that detour sign in your way doesn't mean where you're trying to go isn't still going to be there, right? So we don't do the eye rolls here. We learn lessons.
We eye roll about other
the
stuff.
chin,
Other stuff.
right?
Oh. Just kidding. I'm kidding. We probably do. Right. Yeah, and in trading, losses are required. I mean, literally, you cannot win all of your trades. Losing
life
well,
100%.
right? Losing, knowing how to lose properly is super important. Because winning is awesome, but like in trading, so if you've ever tried trading or thought about trading or whatever, how you lose is actually going to determine if you're profitable or
right
not, because the only control you have is over how much you're willing to lose every time you get in a trade. So
exactly.
that's the only thing you control. And so you have to learn how to lose well in trading. I think that applies across the board though.
Right.
You know,
like if you run into a wall, start to think about how to go over, under, or around it. Like that's my thing. Like the destination does not disappear because a wall pops up there. That just means you got to do some more work. And I think people have a hard time with pivoting when they've put so much thought into a strategy, so much thought into like trying to get from point A to point B. They stop thinking about the possibility of unknowns popping up. And they stop thinking about what other ways and avenues they could take to get to that goal. And I think that's why some people fail so hard or feel like they fail so hard, and it's so hard for them to recover because they're dead set on going straight this way. And you can't go straight that way. That's in the way. So now what do? You know?
Right. And just think about what's the worst case scenario. You do something, you give it a shot, and then it doesn't work out. Like, what is the worst case scenario? Did you die? I mean, like, that would be bad, right?
That's the only thing that's 100%.
Right, exactly. Right. So like, what's the worst case scenario? Is it really that bad? You know, sometimes when we ask what the worst case scenario is, we should ask, what if I don't do this thing I want to do?
Right.
What is going to happen? And that can be a motivator. Instead of saying, well, if I do this, what could happen? So you've got that question like, okay, this is the worst thing that can happen. It doesn't work out. Big deal, big whoop. Because I think a lot of that too is like worrying about what other people think about what we're doing.
Right.
Especially, and I tell you to tell people, if you do not pay my bills, you don't worry about what I'm doing.
Like,
unless you want to send me some bill money, then I'll sit down and have a conversation with you.
Like that's what I was telling people yesterday. Like worst case scenario, right? Worst case scenario, you try it out, you meet some new people, you learn one or two things and you fail and you end up right back where you are right now.
Mm-hmm. With that's a little better, more information.
Scenario, right? Best case, or even like mid case scenario, right? You learn something, you fail a little bit, but you end up in a place that's better than where you are because now you know more, right?
Mhm.
Best case scenario, what if you succeed? What if the thing that you want, that you're going after, actually happens? What if you win? Right?
What
Because,
if you ask yourself a different question?
right,
Instead of saying, what if I fail? What happens if I don't do it?
right. What happens if I
Well,
never try?
right. If I don't do this, my kids are still not going to have their mom at home every night because I work so much. If I don't do this, we're not going to have retirement fund. If I don't make ask better questions. There's a
Right.
book that I love called the QBQ, question behind the question. It's all about asking better questions. So it's like, what if I don't do it? Well, you definitely are going to be at where you are now. It's
Right.
for sure that nothing is going to change or grow for you. So when you give something, a go, and like Christina said, give it a go for a little while before you say it didn't work out, right?
Yeah.
And making those course corrections, if you will. And over the years, I've had people be afraid of success as well, which sounds crazy. Somebody who is in my business who I love dearly, okay, sweet person. I will never forget the day that she called me, and she was starting to have success in her online business. Okay. And she called me and she said, Christy, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I love you, but I have to ask you not to call me when you have a good opportunity again, because I'll do it and then I'll quit. This was the conversation we had.
Wow.
And what was happening for her was and I saw that it happened in several cycles until the point where that was the day she did not do anything again for her online business. She literally got out. She was great. People loved her. She's a wonderful person, warm and smart and everything. And she would start to have success. Here's what happens when you start to have success in whatever. You are now usually have a responsibility now to somebody else. Whether it's your social media, you have a responsibility to your subscribers, your followers. If you have products and services that you're selling of your own, you have a responsibility to your customers, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a network marketing business, you have responsibility to people that you've brought in and building a team, right? So what happens is people are like almost more comfortable in the failure mode because they can just keep doing more of the stuff that isn't working because they don't have any responsibilities to anybody but themselves.
Right.
When all of a sudden you start having customers and followers and subscribers or team members or whatever it is that you're doing, that some people they can't handle the pressure. They don't recognize that they have a fear of success.
Mm-hmm.
Success comes with its own challenges as well. It does, so
Right.
it's like pick your heart, right?
I love that. That's like one of my favorite quotes. Like, and don't take this the wrong way, y'all, but this is one of my favorite quotes. It's like being rich is hard, being poor is hard. Pick your heart. I love that quote
Yeah.
because it takes a lot of effort, right, to stay stagnant. And people don't think about that. It takes a lot of effort to stay stagnant and stay where you are. You keep looking at opportunities and then you talk yourself out of it. Do you know how much it takes for you to talk yourself out of something? And think about what would happen if you talked yourself into it,
Right. Yeah.
Because like you see an opportunity, you see other people seeing success in the opportunity. And then instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to get my toe wet. Okay, now let's go up to the ankle. You don't even try. You start saying, well, this is going to happen and I'm not going to be able to. And what happens if, but you don't know. So you spend a lot of effort just talking yourself down. Like it takes a lot of effort to stay stagnant. Meanwhile, there are people who are putting that same amount of energy or half of that energy into saying, you know what, I'm just going to try.
Right.
And they just do one or two things. And then that one or two things turns into a habit and it's a good habit now, right? So now it's like second nature. Then they're going to try one or two more things. And then it starts to snowball into this big success story, right? But it was because they took one little thing and moved forward instead of sitting there in their mind and talking themselves out of even taking the first step. Like skepticism in your own ability is crazy. I think was it Henry Ford that said, no matter if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Like you have the power to mentally talk yourself into or out of every situation. And
yeah, and you hear like people like talk about money, for example, and like, well, money doesn't buy happiness and all these other cliche, and that's usually from somebody who doesn't have money, right? Right. But money doesn't buy happiness, or money doesn't solve problems. No, it buys a higher quality problem. That's what it does.
Like if money doesn't buy happiness, I really like to eat steaks. Okay. And I don't like to eat ramen noodles. Okay. You see where I'm going? You see, you need money. Okay. Like I don't like to catch the bus. I live in Michigan. It gets very cold here. I do like to drive my car. One of those two situations is gonna make me a little happier than the other one. So thinking about like money doesn't buy happiness, it kind of does. It buys the things that help you from being sad.
Yeah, and what happens is you end up with a high, it doesn't know, it's not going to get rid of all of your issues. It doesn't solve if you're having relationship issues and things like that. But money is definitely one of the, probably the number one thing people fight about in a marriage.
Yep.
Not enough, or how it's going to be spent, or whatever. Somebody's spending it in a way they don't like, or they don't have enough and they're stressed out all the time. So I mean, what is that saying? It's not that important. It's just up there with oxygen. So it's important. If it wasn't important, we wouldn't go punch a clock every day at a job. People wouldn't go and do things to better their skills, and people wouldn't be complaining the minimum wage is too low if money didn't matter. So people don't like to talk about this a lot. Money matters. It matters. Like when you have money, you can do so much good in the world. And maybe that's not why you're doing it. You're like, I'm selfish. I'm one of these selfish people. We kind of all are that way. But you can do more for your kids, your grandkids, your community. But success, money, whatever you want to look at it still has its challenges. They're just different. They're higher quality challenges when you get into these situations. Look at people who get their identity stolen on social media. It's because they're successful.
Right.
So I would rather have my identity stolen on social media because I'm having a lot of success than sit there and have no followers.
Right. Especially if you're running a business, right?
Right. It's a new challenge. And so, having this, like, I'm afraid I'm going to fail. Some people are afraid to succeed as well.
Yeah.
Because then all of a sudden, like,
self-sabotage is a thing that a lot of people don't even notice that they're doing. So like some people in the beginning, and I'll tell you guys like a little secret. In the beginning, my self-sabotage was control. It was a lot of stuff that I was reluctant to try because I didn't know if I could control the situation or control the narrative. So once I started going with the flow a little bit more, then I let go of control. And then I started seeing more success because I was more flexible in how I was moving. Instead of staying very rigid in my rules and everything, just being a little bit more flexible, letting go of control made me more open to other things, which made it so that I could learn more and be more receptive to the lessons that I was running into. Like people don't understand that is a way to self-sabotage as well, right? It's really weird, but yeah, most people don't know that. Like I'm still learning to delegate and things like that within my business. But that is one of the ways that I was self-sabotaging myself. So think about what some of your patterns are as it relates to you and embarking on new endeavors, right? If you're moving into something new and you have a stopping point, start to do a self-assessment to see if it's a pattern. And once you recognize if it's a pattern or not, you can break it, right? If you constantly have, like I said, like you have the need to be in control of a situation. And when things don't go your way, something happens and then you stop. That's a pattern. Now you've identified it. So break the pattern. Start to see what you can do differently moving forward. And you don't have to go like a complete 180
right
change, but start to look at the small incremental things that you could do that make a difference over time.
Some of the things that you might catch yourself doing is like procrastination. That's definitely a self-sabotaging thing. There's an underlying issue to why you're procrastinating, or if you don't follow through on things, or let's say you start and don't finish a lot of different projects. And that was an issue for me and my old business partner, where he would start a lot of projects. So what was our solution? He'd start them, I finish them. So we found a way to work through that, right? And so he didn't necessarily ever really change. He just found somebody who could finish off things that he started and make sure they got implemented. Or giving up too soon is a big one. Most people give up too soon, like right before they're about to have their breakthrough. They just give up. I was reading a post from someone who's doing TikTok videos, and she's like, I was just about to give up, and then I woke up in the morning and a TikTok video I did yesterday went viral. And I just yesterday was thinking I might stop doing my TikToks. It's like, so giving up too soon, that's all self-sabotaging behavior, because we're afraid of failing. Or for some of us, like my friend was afraid of actually having some of that work out, and that she might have to actually, be responsible for things that she does to other people rather than just herself. So I know we almost get a little too deep on these daily shows, Christina.
But they need it. They need it.
I know.
We need it. And like one of my, I'll say, like, not one of my favorite self-sabotages, but one of the funniest self-sabotages for me was my failure to follow through, right? Want to know what my solution was? To stop like trying to meet the deadlines. Like if I started something, I was like, well, it's not going to be finished on time, so I'm not going to finish it. So I stopped doing that and just said, okay, it gets done when it gets done, but at least it's done. And then I'll start to work on being more consistent and getting it done on time.
Right.
So let's just get it finished first.
Right. Get it finished. So this is going to go against all the gurus. Right now, what I'm about to say, but I stopped putting deadlines on my goals.
Right.
Well, I learned it. I was listening to a gentleman, I think over on the Legendary Show, and he's like in his 20s, and everything he said to me or he was saying on the show was just, where you're shaking your head the whole time, like while you're listening. Like, and he was like, all these gurus are, if you don't, you got to set goals with deadlines, and you got to, write your goals down. Sure. Most people who are at the top 1 or 2%, they have their goals written down and things like that. But there's lots of people who have their goals written down who don't succeed. So nobody talks about that part, because that's not enough, right? So he's like, what if you just said, I'm going to do this until I succeed?
We're going back to the baby again. Until.
Right. Just until. And so my self-sabotaging thing for a long time, and even recently I've done it, like last year, was even though I knew it doesn't work for me, and it might work for you, it's fine. But I work better with just daily goals than I do the longer term goals. I know what I want and where I'm looking to go. Right. And I'll do whatever it takes, as long as it's legal, moral, and ethical, to get there for however long it takes to get there. But I'll put a goal on something, and then when I don't reach the goal at the date I put on there, I stop. Well, it's so I had to stop doing that for myself. And I just started just doing what I need to do every day and focusing every day on what needs to be done.
Yeah. And mine is like a little bit different. I set dates, but just like we're talking about having daily goals, I set very, very, very realistic, low daily goals. So if I overachieve, then I can get to my goal faster. So if normally people say, oh, you should be able to do that in 30 days. For me, it'll be a 6-month goal. It might be a 90-day goal, right? And it's because if I hit it faster, I can move on to the next thing. It's not a big deal. The goal doesn't change. The length of time is what changes. And I break it down into smaller increments because life happens. Maybe every Tuesday I'm supposed to do this, but one Tuesday something happens, right? And I can't do the thing that I said. So now I'm a little bit behind, but not really. I don't feel so bad because there's not pressure to be like, oh, it's 25 days left and I'm already 2 days behind my schedule.
Right.
No,
Which is also releasing some control, not getting down on yourself.
Right.
Because you didn't get it done at whatever the deadline was. Or, I mean, we've talked about this, like having just like those 3 things, like if shit hits the fan today.
Yep.
These are the 3 things that had to get done. It's not necessarily always your business stuff either, right?
Right. Because family, like your health, things like that take priority. So
because it's, for me, it's always like about daily wins, right? It's compounding the daily wins over time. If you can win the day and you just focus on winning today, you will win the week. And then you will win the month, and then you will win the year. But if you're just trying to go win the year without winning the day, it's not going to work, because it's a compound effect of winning the day. And if you could just put a couple things down, like today, no matter what, I'm going to do this for my business, even if it's one thing for your business, one thing for your relationship with your kids or your family, one thing with your health. And then those are the 3 things. If shit hits a fan, I got those 3 things. I went for my walk. I posted 3 TikTok videos, and I had dinner with my husband.
Right. Like, and that's what we want you guys to get to. Too. Every time we're talking about this stuff, it somehow ends up being a list, right?
Right.
So write down your goals and then break those goals down into smaller pieces. If your goal is to make a specific amount of money every month, what does that look like for you weekly? And what does weekly look like for you daily? And then break down that daily into the actionable steps so that you can measure and monitor, right? So that you can adjust, so that you can pivot when you need to. Like setting a big goal and not creating a bit of a, like, I like to call everything roadmaps. Not creating a roadmap of how you're going to get there is like already setting yourself behind a little bit. You want to know what it is, and you want to know what actionable steps you can take to get there. And then now you start to figure out how to plug those actionable steps into your daily life. Because we're not saying drop everything and do the thing that you said you were going to do. No, it doesn't work like that. Like life still has to go on. So starting to make those lists and holding yourself accountable, because now you have a list of saying, like, if everything goes haywire, you got those 3 things done. You should celebrate that, because you did the thing you said you were going to do, and you move forward. Now do it for tomorrow. And I have I'm not going to say a bad habit, but I don't have a good habit of it yet, of not always setting my next day's goals the day before. I do them when I wake up.
It works for me better that way too. When I wake up.
Because my mind is fresh when I wake up. I drink my water, I roll over, get my notepad, and I'm like, what do I need to do today? Right? Like, what did I do yesterday? What didn't I do yesterday? What needed to be done yesterday that needs to be done today? Like going through it like that, and through that process for me works pretty well.
I think that's funny, because like we started talking about fear of failure and how these conversations morph into the things that they do. It's just, these are things that you can do, just those little tiny things to help you get. It's not that the fear needs to go away, or the nervousness needs to go away. Just taking action, still, you're going to be scared sometimes, right? Scared to fail, scared to succeed, being nervous, having some anxiety, whatever. It's just doing it anyway. And I did a TikTok on this, but the best thing I ever did for myself in my own business is I stopped caring what anybody else thought.
Oh my goodness.
Because that's where I think most of that comes from.
Right. That's what I was about to say. Like before, like that could be our wrap up, right? Like I started my YouTube channel. I didn't know anything about YouTube. I didn't know how to get subscribers. I didn't even know how to properly like record it. Like going back through my old videos, audio, video, all of it's just messed up, right? Lighting is horrible, right? But I started and I didn't stop. And you get better as you progress. Because I didn't care if people were going to say something about the lighting, I was open to constructive criticism. I didn't know what I didn't know, and I didn't know what I needed to change. And I didn't know how to change some things. I didn't even know that those were things that needed to be changed until I did it. So just don't care about
And
what.
do you really care what somebody thinks about the first video you ever post on YouTube?
Right, not at all. Like, and my whole thing was, I don't care what the negative people say. I'm going to take constructive criticism for the people who actually care and want to help me.
Right.
Because you're going to get both, right? But I'm not going to look at the negative people. I'm going to look at the people who are saying, oh, you're trying. Let me help you. Let me give you some advice. And that's kind of how everything grew from there. And I'm happy with my content. I'm proud of my channel now, right? And it's because I just tried and I didn't stop trying new things and stop pivoting, right? Because listen, technology is difficult some days, and some days it's very easy. But there are more difficult days in the beginning than not.
Yeah, and you know, this one's going to be a tough one. I'm just going to throw this out here.
Okay.
It's for tomorrow. Because it's like, what do we do when our friends and family don't want to support us?
Yeah.
Just the little bit of that right now is you definitely want to do your very best to surround yourself with people who only cheer you on. It's not always possible, but let's save it for tomorrow.
Yeah.
But there are things that you can do. Part of it, though, is going to be internal, where you have to figure out a way to turn off the caring what people think. Not that you don't love your loved ones, but
you
don't
care, but not that much.
What it means is you're going to do it anyway, no matter what they say, even if maybe it does hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
But you don't care in the fact that
it's gonna
still gonna do it.
Yeah.
You're still gonna do it, you know, because some people never retain the lesson. If you don't have anything nice to say nothing at all. You know.
Yep.
So yeah.
So that's what we'll cover tomorrow. So, you know, you might want to cozy up and get that advice. We're going to have a bit of a heart to heart with you. I'll definitely share like some of my experiences with it in the beginning before I stopped caring. Yeah. But for now, that is going to wrap up the Pip Sisters Pips for Brunch podcast today. That's a lot of S's in there. I have a list. That was difficult. That's going to wrap us up for today.
Oh my gosh, Christina. Check your email if you're on the pipsforbrunch.com newsletter. We had a great one today. And also, if you're not on Pips for Brunch, go to pipsforbrunch.com and subscribe.
Right. Bye, you guys.
Bye, everybody.